Friends, if you want to watch super hit movie Your Monster in English, then you must like this video. If you are visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Friends, in today's video, the movie we are going to talk about is called Your Monster. We will talk about what this movie is and where you can watch it, all the interesting facts about this movie in today's video. I am going to tell you. I am also going to give you all the information on which platform or on which satellite channel you will get to watch this movie. Also, we will talk in detail about the technical department, music department, pre-production, filming, post-production, budget, box office collection of this film. We will also talk about the story of this film, and I will also give you a small review of the story of this film. Apart from this, we will discuss about the facts of this film's storyline, star cast, actors' performance in the film, and which character has played which role. That's why I request you friends to watch this video till the end. So let's start the video. Your Monster is a 2024 American anti-romantic comedy, horror, or film written and directed by Lindy, based on her 2019 short film of the same name. The film stars Melissa Barrera, Tommy Dewey, Edmund Donovan, Kayla Foster, and Megan Faye. Your Monster was released in the United States on October 25, 2024, by Vertical. Synopsis. Laura Franco is a young actress enduring a cancer diagnosis and upsetting relationship breakup when she discovers a terrifying yet weirdly charming monster living in her closet. Cast: Melissa Barrera as Laura Franco, Tommy Dewey as Monster, Edmund Donovan as Jacob, Kayla Foster as Maisie, Megan Faye as Jackie Denon. Production: Your Monster is from Merman Productions. 4. Lindy and Kayla Foster produced, with Shannon Riley from Bombo Sports and Entertainment, and Kira Carstensen and Melanie Donkers from Mermaid. Barrera described the project to Collider as an incredible indie movie that was so satisfying to me. And I've realized how smaller films are more creatively satisfying, in a way, because you get a lot more say, and it's like a real team effort. It's like basically everyone is kind of sacrificing a lot to do this very low-budget thing and make it look good and make it the best that it can be, and having the highest hopes for something, knowing that you don't have the huge back of a studio. I think it makes you hungrier. With news of the project coming soon after the release of her second film in the Scream franchise, made some call Barrera the new Scream Queen. Filming. The film was shot in 20 days in Hoboken, New Jersey. Release. The film premiered in the midnight section at the 2024 Sundance Film Festival on January 18, 2024. In March 2024, Vertical acquired North American distribution rights to the film. The film is scheduled to release on October 25, 2024. Reception. Critical response. On the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, 72% of 53 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of 6.8/10. The website's consensus reads, a wickedly delightful genre mashup led by Melissa Barrera. Your Monster is pleasantly packed with songs, guts, and heart. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 64 out of 100, based on 12 critics, indicating generally favorable reviews of Barrera. The film received generally positive reviews from critics, with Melissa Barrera and Tommy Dewey's performances and chemistry were heavily praised. The Nashville Film Festival praised Barrera by saying, "There are very few people who can light up the screen the way that Melissa Barrera does. The multi-talented actress displays the perfect level of innocence, vulnerability, and eventually fierceness in her portrayal as Laura Franco." Chase Hutchinson of The Wrap praises Lindy's debut feature film and shout-outs Barrera's addition to the film as it sticks the landing with a mischievous smile for good measure. Scream may be dead as we know it, but Lindy's film gives Barrera, much like Laura, the stage to show she doesn't need stories from those who don't value her. She's got her own to tell, and if they're anything like this one, what great ones they'll be. Chad Collins of Dread Central stated, Your Monster is liable to be the most fun you have at the movies this year. Perhaps in the past several years. Writer and director Lindy's feature debut is remarkably assured, ostensibly retelling Beauty and the Beast, though imbued with oodles of charm, a smattering of horror gore, and a truly star-making turn from Melissa Barrera. Truly, Barrera, while a star before Your Monster, ascends to an entirely different level here. A miscast Melissa Barrera bonds with the beast under her bed. Apart from the opening cancer scare, Caroline Lindy's mopey midnight movie doesn't make much of its horror-adjacent premise, focusing instead on a woe-is-me young actor's plot to get back at her ex. If Ann Landers had it right and hanging on to resentment amounts to letting someone you despise live rent-free in your head, then Your Monster is what happens when you kick open the door and let those feelings run amok. Drawing from personal experience, writer-director Caroline Lindy delivers a clumsy metaphor of a movie, in which a promising young actor named Laura Franco, In the Heights star Melissa Barrera, has her Broadway dreams derailed by a cancer diagnosis, only to discover a ferocious inner strength, courtesy of the beastly creature she finds hanging around her childhood home. In what amounts to a heavy-handed empowerment tale, the monster in question, Tommy Dewey, made up to suggest a cross between a goat-bearded New York hipster and the leonine Lothario Ron Perlman played in CBS's late 80s series Beauty and the Beast, is at first a surly roommate, later a potential love interest, and ultimately a manifestation of Laura's long-suppressed sense of rage. The symbolism isn't exactly subtle, as Laura learns to break free of her polite good girl upbringing and embrace those roiling emotions. Set in the histrionic world of musical theater, Your Monster is no conventional horror offering, any more than conceptually similar Colossal and A Monster Calls were before it. Things eventually get bloody, but only just enough to support Sundance's decision to book Lindy's genre-bending backstage dramedy as a midnight movie. At various points, Lindy's script overtly identifies the kind of cinematic impact she's aiming to achieve, as when Laura watches Stanley Donen's Royal Wedding, tearing up as she always does at the end of such movies. And yet, Lindy's project doesn't register as a new classic romance, so much as a score-settling grudge match. Like her heartbroken protagonist, Lindy was dumped by an insensitive boyfriend just as she was being treated for a suspicious tumor. It takes a special kind of jerk to abandon someone in such a situation. And yet, Barrera's pouty and privileged take on the character gives audiences reason to think her deadbeat ex, Jacob, Edmund Donovan, had the right idea. We can all agree how lousy Laura's breakup must have felt, but it's going to take more than tragedy to make us care about this entitled drama queen. A flashback shows the moment when Jacob promised Laura the lead role in the musical she helped him develop, The House of Good Women. But what evidence does Lindy give that her leading lady belongs on Broadway? If Barrera's cringe-worthy performance is meant to be any indication of Laura's talent, the character doesn't belong anywhere near a professional stage. Lindy has the lazy tendency of resorting to hammy montages, featuring more sweater changes than a Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood marathon, in places where a specific, well-written scene would have revealed far more about the character. And so we get Laura binging on pastries and bawling her eyes out when she comes home from the hospital, or cutesy clips of her and the monster fighting over the thermostat during the short time they agree to cohabitate. Lindy treats Your Monster like a high-concept sitcom premise, but fails to deliver the laughs such an approach requires. Against her better judgment, but at the monster's encouragement, Laura psychs herself into attending the tryouts for Jacob's musical. Her audition is a disaster, which makes sense, considering that her ex sits there looking pathetic. A popular star, Megan Faye, is positioned to steal her part, and one of the decision-makers distractedly chooses this moment to eat his lunch. Barrera can sing, but she can't juggle, which is a problem in a role that requires a more versatile performer. Still, whether out of sympathy or obligation, Jacob offers to make Laura the understudy, which introduces the near certainty that the star will break a leg or something, therefore paving the way for Laura to shine. Unique as the premise may sound, Your Monster proves frustratingly obvious as its furious heroine works up the nerve to unleash her ID, which is a lot less satisfying when presented as a grouchy companion than if she had a full transformation, a la Cat People or Ginger Snaps. At one point, Laura's invited to a masquerade party with Jacob and the cast, using the Halloween holiday as the perfect opportunity to drag her monster out of the house, under the pretext that he's in costume. I suspect that young audiences may find Dewey's adorable ogre shtick more amusing than I did, as the hirsute creature, who's presumably been pent up in Laura's house/subconscious till now, surprises with his millennial lingo and awareness of neighborhood hotspots. The stock joke with imaginary friend movies is that these characters are disconnected and out of touch with the modern world, whereas the monster under Laura's bed expresses himself like a teenage girl. Even more than best and only friend Maisie, Kayla Foster, who brings an irreverent Kate Berlant-like energy to the only other character who seems to care about Laura. Mopey to a fault, with a missed opportunity for an ending, your monster amounts to an intermittently amusing, grubby-looking pity party. Laura can cry if she wants to, but you won't. Writer-director Caroline Lindy makes her feature film directorial debut with 2024's Your Monster, an original project that blends horror, comedy, and romance. The genre-defying movie follows a young aspiring actor named Laura Franco, whose recent injury has waylaid her Broadway dreams, and whose heart is shattered after her boyfriend broke up with her while she was in the hospital and went on to stage a play they worked on together. In the midst of her grief, she discovers a monster living in her closet, with a mission in mind: to teach her self-love. Lindy's casting is one of Your Monster's strengths, in large part thanks to leading lady Melissa Barrera, Scream and Scream 6, portraying vulnerability and repressed rage in equal measure as Laura. Tommy Dewey, who recently brought Michael O'Donoghue to the big screen in Saturday Night, is also a revelation as Monster, while the White Lotus star Megan Fahy and Civil War's Edmund Donovan round out the cast. By combining romance and horror tropes with top-notch acting and fantasy-level visuals, Your Monster tells a captivating tale about inner demons and self-worth. Screen Rant interviewed Barrera and Dewey about how they connected to their characters in Your Monster, what the prosthetics did for the movie, and which scenes stood out most in their minds. Melissa Barrera likens her character in Your Monster to her own industry heartbreaks. I'm very familiar with that feeling of deep despair, wanting to just literally quit life. Screen Rant: Your Monster is an original film that explores themes of inner rage, self-love, and empowerment in such a creative and beautiful way. Brilliant job. Melissa, how did you connect personally with Laura Franco's journey, especially her experience of heartbreak and self-discovery amidst such challenging circumstances? I mean, I've had my fair share of heartbreak. I haven't had a heartbreak in the romantic sense in a while because I've been with my husband for so long, but there are other ways to get your heart, especially in this industry, so I'm very familiar with that feeling of deep despair. Just wanting just literally quit life. But also, it was very easy for me to connect with Laura because I'm also a musical theater nerd. It's also my dream to be on Broadway. And literally one of the first lines in the script, Laura says it's her dream when Jacob offers her the role. She's like, "This has been my dream for so long." And so immediately I was like, I know who this person is. Tommy Dewey, let the prosthetics do the talking in Your Monster. It's really just connecting, ironically, on a human level with Melissa. Tommy, Monster serves as the catalyst for Laura's transformation. Can you share your approach to bringing that charm and depth to such an intriguing role? And can you talk about the challenges of conveying emotion through makeup and prosthetics? I think the key to Monster, and I've said this before, was not playing Monster. That incredible prosthetic, shout out to Dave Anderson and his team for that, does a lot of the work for you. Then it's really just connecting ironically on a human level with Melissa and rolling up our sleeves and getting into the acting work of developing that chemistry. I think to get really nerdy and actory, if Monster is playing an action, it is to heal her. Sometimes that's tough love, sometimes that's crying with her, whatever it ends up being. I've got to say I was a little nervous about being expressive enough, but that apparatus is so incredible. It matches every crow's foot, every wrinkle. I mean, it's that fine-tuned. If I move, it moves. And it's so nice to not bring your vanity to set. I will cop to being a vain person and to be able to be like, I don't look great today, I look like a monster. That self-consciousness that you bring to work sometimes just doesn't exist, and what a great place to be to perform. Your Monster stars were competing with Super Bowl chaos in one of their most memorable scenes. It was a lot of elements that were working against us in that moment. Screen Rant. Can you both talk about the dynamic between Laura and Monster, and how it evolved during the film? Were there any scenes that were particularly challenging or rewarding to shoot together? Oh my God, that owner. That long scene after the Halloween party out in the park? That was a long scene. It was negative something degrees Celsius. I don't know what Fahrenheit would be. It was negative on both scales. Negative on both scales. It was freezing. It was raining. We didn't know that we had a certain amount of time because of the permits of the park or whatever. There was a football game that had happened. It was the Super Bowl that just let out. People were pouring out of bars, recognizing Melissa, being like, hey, and then seeing her standing next to me and my monster, being like, what are you two doing on the street corner in Hoboken this late at night? I'm interrupting you, but we thought we were getting into traditional coverage, so we were like, hey, we're just doing this long winter, but we'll be able to. And then at some point, Carrick's like, this is the shot. We live or die with this shot. I think we got 2 full takes. Yeah, that was it. It was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of elements that were working against us in that moment. Also, Dave was like, we don't know if his face is going to fall off because of the rain, so let's go. It was insane. It was very stressful, but I think in the end, it worked out. I was melting. And then all the stuff in the house, all those, I'm abusing this metaphor, but the tennis match stuff between the two of us early on in that house, I wouldn't call that challenging, but it was just a delight to show up and meet Melissa and find out she's game to do that kind of work. That's why you do this gig. That was really fantastic. More about your monster. Your monster tells the story of the soft-spoken actor Laura Franco, Melissa Barrera, who is dumped by her longtime boyfriend, Edmund Donovan, while recovering from surgery and retreats to her childhood home to recover. With her future looking bleak, insult is added to injury when Laura discovers her ex is staging a musical that she helped him develop. But out of these gut-wrenching life changes emerges a monster, Tommy Dewey, with whom she finds a connection, encouraging Laura to follow her dreams, open her heart, and fall in love with her inner rage. Caroline Lindy's Your Monster is a refreshingly unique anti-romantic comedy horror that stands out by blending human vulnerability with a quirky supernatural twist. Building upon her 2019 short film of the same name, Lindy crafts a story that doesn't shy away from themes of illness, heartbreak, and self-acceptance, creating a narrative both haunting and heartfelt. With its snappy dialogue, offbeat charm, and relatable protagonist, Your Monster invites audiences to confront their own inner monsters while delivering a story that feels both darkly funny and oddly therapeutic. Premise: Melissa Barrera stars as Laura Franco, a young actress facing one of life's roughest patches. After receiving a cancer diagnosis, she's also forced to endure the pain of a breakup with her ex, Jacob, Edmund Donovan, who, it seems, hasn't made her recovery any easier. As Laura stumbles through her fragile state, she makes a strange discovery that changes everything. A monster, played with an oddly endearing touch by Tommy Dewey, living in her closet. The monster and who he is. The monster isn't just a symbol of fear or the unknown, but comes across as an amalgamation of Laura's insecurities, unresolved trauma, and unmet emotional needs. While Your Monster could have easily fallen into familiar horror tropes, Lindy takes a refreshing approach by giving the monster a complex personality. He is a creature with quirks, vulnerabilities, and even a sense of humor. This layered portrayal transforms the monster from a mere scare tactic into an unconventional companion for Laura, blurring the lines between foe and friend. The monster also seems to echo Laura's emotional baggage, a reflection of the things she's too afraid to confront. By personifying her internal struggles, Lindy skillfully allows the audience to explore Laura's psyche and her journey towards self-acceptance and healing in a highly visual and metaphorical way. This creative setup lends the film both a therapeutic quality and a touch of humor, as Laura wrestles with her unexpected roommate. Melissa Barrera needs an Oscar. Melissa Barrera shines in the role of Laura, bringing a raw and nuanced performance that captures the struggles of illness, isolation, and heartbreak. Her portrayal makes Laura both relatable and complex, a character who is far from the typical horror heroine. Laura's experience feels grounded, particularly as Barrera balances Laura's vulnerability with a sharp wit that never lets the film drown in despair. Barrera's comedic timing further accentuates the film's anti-romantic vibe, creating a protagonist who is more than capable of fending off her own demons, even if they happen to reside in her closet. She has never failed to deliver truly great performances. This is the kind of performance that absolutely demands to be Oscar-nominated. It won't happen because it's an unconventional horror-esque film, but it really should. Tommy Dewey is wonderfully charming. Tommy Dewey as the monster brings unexpected charm to the role, infusing this literal manifestation of fear with a degree of empathy and warmth. Rather than simply lurking in the shadows or jumping out for shock value, the monster engages with Laura in a way that adds both tension and unexpected moments of humor. Dewey's deadpan humor and subtle quirks create a dynamic that both intrigues and disarms the audience, playing off Barrera's quick-witted Laura. The chemistry between Barrera and Dewey is undeniable, blending comedic tension with the thrill of uncertainty, resulting in scenes that vacillate between fear and unexpected tenderness. The supporting cast also adds dimension to the narrative. Edmund Donovan's portrayal of Jacob captures the frustrations and complexities of a fractured relationship, providing a sharp contrast to Laura's evolving bond with the monster. Kayla Foster as Maisie and Megan Fahey as Jackie Denon round out Laura's world, grounding her interactions with others and highlighting her detachment from typical social circles, making her relationship with the monster even more compelling. Superb direction. Lindy's direction is filled with clever touches, setting up a whimsical, horror-infused atmosphere that leans heavily into the emotional rather than the terrifying. She crafts Laura's world as one marked by existential dread, but it's balanced by snarky humor and a touch of absurdity that keeps the story from feeling overwhelmingly bleak. The film's tone is masterfully nuanced. While it has moments of true eeriness, it's Lindy's comedic timing and dialogue that make Your Monster, written and directed by Caroline Lindy, is a quirky blend of horror, comedy, and drama. Starring Melissa Barrera, Megan Fahey, and Tommy Dewey, the film delves into the tumultuous aftermath of a painful breakup. Inspired by Lindy's personal experiences, the film follows Laura, a woman recently diagnosed with cancer, who is abandoned by her boyfriend Jacob. Jacob is a musical theater director who has a show going on that he wrote with Laura's help. Seeking solace and recovery, Laura returns to her childhood home, only to discover a monstrous creature lurking in her closet. I spent the whole movie trying to decide if the monster was real or in her head. I'm still not sure. This ambiguity adds an intriguing layer to the narrative, as Laura's relationship with the creature evolves from animosity to a friendship and more. I really like the monster character. He would be a fun and obnoxious roommate. But he was a good friend to Laura when she needed one. The story was a bit Beauty and the Beast. Laura decides to try out for a part in Jacob's show anyway, even though she was disinvited. She puts herself right back in that situation, which I did not think was a good idea. She then discovers other bad behavior on Jacob's part. While Laura's initial vulnerability and reliance on her ex-boyfriend can be frustrating, her character arc offers a poignant exploration of grief, anger, and self-discovery. Her transformation, aided by the monster's influence, is both cathartic and empowering. There's a very weird ending. I like the whole premise and idea of the movie. I wish they would have made Laura a stronger character. Her weakness drove me nuts. I really wanted her to move on from this difficult situation. I also feel like they could have had a bit more fun with the story. The film's unique blend of genres and its exploration of an unconventional relationship make it a thought-provoking watch. However, it may not be for everyone, as its pacing and tone can be uneven. This movie is okay. It's certainly different. You can wait and stream this at home. Just as its female lead is letting her inner rage come bubbling to the surface, the movie Your Monster, about this young woman, is also crying out from the inside to become a full-blown Broadway musical, and not just the cult midnight movie it inevitably will be. A sometimes awkward combo of horror rom-com/musical elements that don't always mesh perfectly, but still blend well enough, makes writer-director Caroline Lindy's own feature-length adaptation of her short film a fun ride, as well as a terrific showcase for its stars Melissa Barrera and Tommy Dewey. In some ways, it is also reminiscent of the current Demi Moore-Margaret Qualley horror comedy The Substance from director Coralie Fargett, which also finds its main character going deep into herself in order to change the trajectory of her life, all the way to a desperate and stunning denouement on a theatrical stage, albeit in wildly different ways. Maybe these ambitious and inventive female-driven horror comedies are a trend? Barrera's Scream is Laura, an aspiring musical theater actress who gets a devastating cancer diagnosis and lands in the hospital where, while recovering, gets the gut-wrenching blow that her longtime boyfriend Jacob, Edmund Donovan, has decided to dump her. This is devastating stuff, made even worse by the fact this stage director-writer has decided to cast another woman, Jackie Denon, Megan Fahey, in the role Laura helped Jacob develop for herself to play, her big break. After getting out of the hospital, Laura returns to her childhood home to fully recover. When out of the closet she meets Monster Dewey, a fury creature-like human, think Beauty and the Beast, whose unattractive physicality is cancelled out by an engaging, witty, encouraging personality, a being who coaches Laura to bring out her inner rage and demand better for herself. Their relationship grows as Laura confronts herself, and later Jacob, soon becoming the understudy. A small consolation that leads to more than one ugly meltdown with her ex during rehearsals, even as she and Monster bond even closer. This is a fun concept, one that is oddly wildly romantic, but more importantly one that signals the coming of a new age and rage for Laura, who will simply not accept Jacob's callous actions, even if she still might succumb to him against the advice of a disappointed Monster. The story heads into unexpected directions, a more fierce and darker place than the often playful tone the filmmaker has set. But she has also laid clues. This is a woman not quite done with her payback. Yes, it is horror. Yes, it is comedy. Yes, it is romantic. Yes, it is dramatic. But also yes, it is a mini-musical, with some catchy Broadway-ready tunes written by the Lazurs, with a bouncy score provided by Tim Williams. The soundtrack overall is killer, and Barrera surprisingly proves her musical chops, belting out her numbers with confidence and style. At times her character is forced to overplay and shout a bit too much, but Barrera makes Laura someone we can't take our eyes away from, and someone to root for even at her most intense moments. Dewey, in his beastly makeup, proves to be a first-rate romantic lead, and like Beauty and the Beast, we want him to hook up with Laura, even as a symbol of what and who she is from the inside. Dewey, so good currently in Saturday Night as Michael O'Donoghue, gets a juicy role and proves a perfect counterpoint to Barrera's breakdowns. Great chemistry here. Fahey, The White Lotus Season 2, is also fine as the person who steals the role Laura craves, but is sympathetic and winning in the end. Donovan is sufficiently unlikable enough to make Jacob a bit of a villain, but he's a recognizable creep, more interested in his show than the feelings of his ex. Your Monster, which premiered to good reaction at this year's Sundance Film Festival, is not exactly a typical Halloween season horror film where its distributor has placed it, but like a Rocky Horror Picture Show, it has the stuff to eventually find an appreciative audience that just might be bowled over by its sheer originality and quirky message of finding our inner self, for better or worse. And don't be surprised to see Broadway calling. Producers are Lindy, Kayla Foster, Kira Karstensen, Melanie Donkers, and Shannon Riley. Laura, Melissa Barrera, is having the worst breakup. Not only did her longtime boyfriend Jacob, Edmund Donovan, leave her, he left her in the middle of cancer treatment. He said he couldn't be her caretaker and walked out of her life, leaving her a weepy mess, her things sent to her mom's home, and he even disinvited her to audition for his new show that she had a hand in developing. Her overbearing friend Maisie comes to take her home and give her space to grieve. On a dark and stormy night, Laura runs into a beastly creature known simply as Monster, Tommy Dewey, who's been a part of her life for years, lurking in her mother's closet and dark corners of their home, only occasionally venturing out and crossing paths with her. However, he's not happy with Laura's return, and the two reluctant roommates struggle to find common ground, until Laura decides to audition for Jacob's show, and with Monster's help, prove she's no pushover. It's a charming premise, but the movie, written and directed by Lindy, never quite comes together. Your Monster is a modern-day Beauty and the Beast meets a chorus line, following our heartbroken singer through the bowels of the cutthroat musical theater world, instead of an idyllic French countryside and castle. The film's namesake Monster falls short of the redemptive arc the Beast experiences in his fairy tale. Instead, he's more of a petulant, combative partner who softens around Laura, supports her, and defends her against the real monster, her ex. Monster starts off as the worst roommate ever, scaring Laura when she's not expecting it, fighting over control of the thermostat and TV, and demanding she leave almost as soon as she's settled in to mourn her heartbreak. Their dynamic never quite feels as satisfying as its inspiration. The story, which is based on Lindy's own experience of a longtime boyfriend jilting her in the middle of cancer treatment, also bears some resemblance to this year's earlier effort, Lisa Frankenstein, which billed itself as a coming-of-age love story. Similarly, Your Monster is also rooted in rage, but Laura takes a lot longer to come around to anger. It takes another act of betrayal, catching Jacob with his new leading lady Jackie, Menfefi, for Laura to stop crying and start standing up for herself. But with the help of a horror movie monster, the good girls in both Lisa Frankenstein and Your Monster are able to grow, embrace their darker impulses, and yes, tap into that long-withheld rage with the help of a non-so-traditional romantic partner. I only wish Your Monster had a bit more fun with that idea along the way. While it's great to see Barrera back singing after In the Heights, the songs in Your Monster lack a certain kind of show-stopping quality that would have allowed her to show off her range. Even in scenes with Dewey's monster at home, Barrera's performance plays things rather broad and over the top, with lots of screaming between big, tearful outbursts. That tonal confusion can also be seen in the narrative. It feels rather tame when Laura finally embraces her rage as she watches Monster handle the dirty work. Her bloodlust feels almost off-key, even when she exacts the kind of revenge on a shitty ex that most of us can only imagine. She's not exactly hell-bent on revenge, as she is trying to get back in his good graces, until she realizes those graces are not worth fighting for. Your Monster is a strange beast because it has the ingredients to be a crowd-pleaser, but sometimes those very elements were the things that made me wish the credits would deliver me. Its uneven, heavy-handed approach to breakups and bad exes may quench some urge for revenge, but our main character's heart isn't in it. While the concept feels fresh, its execution is much more predictable. Once Laura goes down this path, we know Jacob will more or less play the part of an unrepentant Gaston, callously pushing her aside for a new prize, and for that he must be punished, perhaps by a certain hairy suitor. Occasionally, Your Monster shows some signs of life, but it's not enough to keep it alive as long as the runtime. Feminine rage has been enjoying a bit of a moment on screen in the past few years. See also films such as Promising Young Woman and Birds of Prey. And it's about bloody time. Your Monster is the latest in this mini-cinematic trend, but it's the first such movie that's actually kinda sweet in how it goes about this. Oh, the humor here is bitter, and the horror comes at you from unexpected angles, for sure. And the overriding genre is perhaps anti-romance. But the only thing that makes it anti is that it's about its female protagonist learning to love and respect herself, to put her own needs first. There's a monster in Laura's In the Heights closet, see? And the monster is her. A manifestation of her own psyche. Of her loneliness. Of her anger. A 20-something actor in New York City, Laura has just been dumped by her boyfriend as she is recovering from cancer surgery. It happens so frequently that men abandon their female partners who receive serious medical diagnoses that nurses know to prepare their women patients for the possibility. The based on a true-ish story alert that opens the film is an allusion to that very indignity befalling filmmaker Lindy. Her best friend, fellow actor Maisie, Kayla Foster, is constantly off to the gym or an audition, even though she assured Laura that, Ride or die, she'd be here for hugs or a cheer-up hangout. Even Laura's own mother is entirely absent. Mom never appears, just leaves Laura some cash and carbs to help healing as Laura recuperates in her childhood home. Laura is living with a pile-on of shit. And now she is living with Monster, Tommy Dewey, the front-runner, step-up revolution, who starts out as a terrible roommate, annoyed with her presence, and morphs into a good friend. Turns out he's into Shakespeare, and they bond over old movies and Chinese takeout. He makes her tea. He's kind of hot for a Monster, and becomes a huge cheerleader for her as she begins to emerge back into the world. He's funny and charming, and it's deeply sexy and seductive how he sees her, genuinely sees and understands her, and supports her. The way he slips under her bed at night, Monster style, to stay close and keep her company, that's one of those unexpectedly sweet moments. The way he is the perfect boyfriend, that is, alas, the real make-believe. There are big Beauty and the Beast vibes here, specifically the 1980s romantic fantasy TV series starring Linda Hamilton and Ron Perlman. Yes, of course, it's all Laura, all the time. This is female empowerment in the romance of loving yourself, in a woman taking control of her own life in a meaningful way, and in finally giving in, with Monster's encouragement, to the fury she has been subsuming. She has a lot of unfinished business, professional and personal, with her ex, Jacob, Edmund Donovan, Civil War, who'd promised her the leading role in the stage musical he was writing, that she helped him write. A project he has now also snatched from her. It's not okay, how he treated her. Monster gives her this as a mantra to take to heart. How she resolves her relationship with Jacob explodes as a kind of grand and, well, monstrous performance art. It's hilarious and shocking, and one of the more audacious things I've on screen in a long while. Your Monster takes us through some wild tonal shifts, but writer-director Lindy, making her feature debut with an expansion of her 2020 short of the same name, pulls it off, casting women's lives and the everyday bullshit we endure as both comedy and tragedy, as romance and horror. That musical that Jacob wrote? It's about the straitjacket of being the good girl that all women are socialized to be. This is a hugely original and grimly delightful smashdown of that. It's a roar that women are mad as hell, and we're not gonna take it anymore. Synopsis. After her life falls apart, soft-spoken actress Laura Franco finds her voice again when she meets a terrifying yet weirdly charming monster living in her closet. A romantic comedy horror film about falling in love with your inner rage. Your Monster is, hands down, the most fun I've had with a rom-com in recent memory. It's like a Beauty and the Beast story, but instead of a fancy castle, it's set in your mom's house, and the Beast is a total grump with a serious case of get-out-of-my-closet syndrome. Add in some delicious rom-com vibes, a dash of horror, and Melissa Barrera delivering a performance so fabulous that you can't take your eyes off her, and you've got a film that's an absolute blast. Barrera plays Laura Franco, and let's just say, her life is a total mess at the start. She's just gone through surgery, her terrible playwright boyfriend Jacob, Edmund Donovan, who you'll definitely want to boo off the screen, has dumped her, and now she's recovering in her mom's empty house. Yep, her mom is MIA. No texts, no notes, nothing. But don't worry, her bestie Maisie, played by Kayla Foster, who's bubbly in all the best ways, is by her side, doing her best to keep Laura from totally falling apart. Now, this is where things take a turn way off the rom-com map. One night, during a super creepy thunderstorm, Laura meets the monster in her closet. And when I say monster, I mean full-on monster. Sharp teeth, growly voice, and absolutely no chill. He's been living there for years and he's not happy about Laura moving back in. In fact, he gives her 2 weeks to pack up and get out. Yep, 2 weeks. Imagine having an eviction notice from a creature living behind your shoes. Wild, right? But as you probably guessed, things don't go as planned. So here's where your monster really shines. The movie is technically a romantic comedy, but it's got all these little quirky twists that make it feel like a breath of fresh air. It's not just about the will they or won't they, it's about how Laura starts piecing her life back together with a little help from, well, her childhood closet monster, Tommy Dewey. The chemistry between Barrera and Dewey is so much fun to watch. It's awkward, sweet, and downright swoon-worthy in parts. Seriously, there's a scene with Szechuan chicken that had me melting. It's giving major weird but wonderful vibes, and I am here for it. But don't let the cutesy parts fool you. This movie has some depth. Laura's not just some damsel waiting to be saved. She's struggling to figure out who she is after a breakup and a major health scare. And Monster. Yes, that's his name. Love the simplicity. Isn't just your average growly guy. He's got his own baggage too, and their relationship becomes this fun, messy, heartwarming journey of self-discovery for both of them. By the time Laura is ready to go after a part in Jacob's Broadway play, one he literally wrote for her while they were together, you're fully rooting for her. The way the film balances light, funny moments with real emotional beats is what makes it so special. The visuals in Your Monster are stunning. Will Stone's cinematography turns even the smallest sets into whimsical playgrounds, and there's a Halloween party that is absolutely to die for. The lights, the costumes, thank you, Matthew Simonelli. The vibes, it's a rom-com dream come true. And let's not forget the soundtrack. It's a mix of classic love songs and original music that just wraps you up in the feels. As the movie heads toward its grand finale, things get surprisingly intense. Think Black Swan, but with more monster claws and romantic swooning. It's one of those films that doesn't shy away from its horror roots, but still manages to keep everything feeling light and fun. The final act is a bold mix of heart and humor, with just enough blood to keep it exciting. At its core, Your Monster is a love letter to anyone who's felt lost, brokenhearted, or like their life is falling apart. It's about finding the strength to move forward, even if you need a little push from the monster living in your closet. And honestly, that's what makes this movie so special. It's not just cute, it's got layers, and it knows how to tug on your heartstrings while making you laugh and squeal in delight. Bottom line, if you're looking for a rom-com that's equal parts charming, hilarious, and a little spooky, Your Monster is your new obsession. Get ready to fall in love with monsters, messy lives, and the magical, chaotic beauty of it all. Directed by Caroline Lindy, written by Caroline Lindy, produced by Melissa Barrera, Kayla Foster, Caroline Lindy, Shannon Riley, Kira Carstensen, Melanie Dunkers, starring Melissa Barrera, Tommy Dewey, Edmund Donovan, Kayla Foster, Megan Fiss. Cinematography Will Stone, edited by D.A. Broadway John Higgins, music by Timothy Williams. The Laser Songs production companies Bombo Sports and Entertainment. Merman, distributed by Vertical. Release dates, January 18, 2024 in Sundance, October 25, 2024 in United States. Running time 98 minutes. Country United States. Language English. So guys, this is their review of Your Monster movie and some information about it. How do you like our today's video? Please let us know by commenting, and if you like this video, please like it, share it, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.